believe that babies are born with an understanding of good versus evil, or do you believe that it was taught by human nature?
Good, very good question. I'll answer this and then Stuart, you answer it. I am convinced that my little granddaughter, who is 6 months old, his daughter, has no understanding of what good and evil are. But I am convinced that when she comes of age, and I think for different people that's different, she will develop her own understanding of good and evil. Will that understanding be heavily influenced by her environment? Yes, ma'am. Will her understanding of good and evil be limited by her environment? No. Once again, smack. Sorry you're getting hit so many times today. You ask me, Cliff, why'd you do it? And I say to you, because I grew up in an environment that taught me that women who wear this color sweatshirt deserve to be smacked. It doesn't cut it. Because although my environment taught me that, I still have a conscience, a rational mind, and I am responsible before God to exercise that and to contradict my culture, to contradict my environment when I begin to realize my environment is wrong. Let me give you one quick example.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I played major college basketball. I was the worst guy on the team. I had good seats for every game. But I can promise you, almost, not everybody, but almost every guy who I played college basketball with had a very clear understanding of what human sexuality was all about. It was all about getting as many good-looking women into bed with them as they could. And so I had to exercise my conscience and my rational thinking. I had to ask, is that why God gave me my sexuality? To have sex with as many good-looking women as I can. And was it tempting to follow their example? I mean, that's the environment. I mean, shoot, we flew on a jet to different, played against UCLA, St. John's, NC State, Wake Forest. I mean, we were high flying. Okay, and so we all knew what we did at night. All right? So I had to make a decision. Is that the right way to live? Is that the right way to treat women? Is that the right way to express my sexuality? Or has God created my sexuality for a different reason? So I had to contradict my culture. And guess what? I've learned to respect people who contradict their culture and don't support racism. I work with some skinheads. And those skinheads grew up in a culture that said white superiority is clear. But there's some skinheads who said, no, it's wrong, and I'm not going to follow my culture. So that's how I think through that issue. All right, Stuart, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I would just add to that, because we've talked so much about kind of the moral, ethic side of things, it's important, again, to remember that the Christian faith is not about just be a good person, somehow you'll get into heaven. Just be a good person. You know, I'm a good person, so I'm in. No, to your question, many babies are born into, whether it's a crack baby or whether it's a baby born into a very religious home or an Amish baby, let's just say. They're typically born into homes that are very tender, loving, as long as they don't leave, right, and they get excommunicated. Tender, loving, they get taught ethics. See, when you become a Christian, cynical, pharisaical, judgmental Christians will say, oh, well, you should be, say, 9 out of 10 on the ethic standard rung, in terms of you should be a great person. But no, Christ doesn't understand that the baby born into an Amish family versus the baby born into a crackpot family, this baby, when they come to know God from a very young age, they're going to be higher ethically in terms of how they live than this one who is, say, probably ethically living a pretty messed up life, at least at first, and yet they both have eternal life because they've accepted Christ. It's not like somehow this one is going to be higher in heaven,
Right.
like there's levels, than this one.
But then why give original sin to something that doesn't even have a working conscience yet?
I'm glad I heard you say give original sin one more time, because I heard you say that earlier.
Right.
Because God doesn't give original sin. See, I debated an atheist on YouTube not too long ago. He's a comedian. And that's what he kept pushing me on. Out of the book of Isaiah, briefly talks about how God creates evil. But if you look at the interpretation, what it means is God judges different people groups when they have done tremendous evil. So just like that passage with original sin, God doesn't give us original sin. He gives us free will, just like with Satan, to decide whether to worship him, to love him, to have a loving relationship with him, or to just go our own way, to live for ourselves, to live any old way we want. And then that, based off of Genesis 3 and what happened in the garden with Adam and Eve, what they decided that God, we're going to flip you off, we could care less about you, then they lived their own kind of way and original sin started. But to your point, absolutely, we're born into a messed up world, so we do have a readiness to sin factor, I believe you said that, from the earliest of ages. But babies will also be in heaven, because when David's baby dies, his wife was Bathsheba, he says, I will go to you, you will not come to me. So babies will be in heaven, based off of the question earlier on suffering.
Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Thank you so much for raising that. Yes, sir.
So I believe in God, and I turned Christian, and I know it's only because I'm American, and obviously the main religion in America is Christian.
Yeah.
So that's why I lean towards Christian. But I have a question. So
Not a good reason to lean towards Christian, okay? I
Okay,
appreciate your
maybe not.
honesty and your ability to analyze yourself.
Yeah.
Please do not believe in Jesus Christ because you grew up in America. Not a good reason.
No. I believe in God,
Good,
and I didn't before.
right?
But I'm still stuck on this whole Jesus thing.
Yes.
Because if he's sinless, like,
Yes.
is there a possibility that there will be another person born that's sinless? Or is Jesus the only one?
Well, Jesus is the only one that I know of so far who's been born sinless.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's highly unlikely that someone will be born sinless.
I guess my main question is I can believe in God because
Yep.
I know I can't see him factually, but I have a belief in him.
Yes?
But I don't know if I can believe in Jesus because he was on earth,
Yes.
and not everybody was there to prove whether he was sinless or not. Like, he wasn't surrounded by
Good
people
point.
24/7 saying...
Good point. Very good point. So
Yeah.
maybe Jesus did sin at some point.
Mhm.
But I have to follow the evidence. And the evidence is the Apostle John lived closely with Christ for 3 years. And in 1 John, John writes, in him is no sin. So you're right, John didn't live with Jesus intimately for 33 years, just for 3 years.
Yeah.
But I can promise you, if a dude lives with Jesus for 3 years and can honestly say, I've never seen the guy sin, that's pretty impressive. Then in John chapter 8, Jesus looked into the faces of his enemies and asked them, which one of you can prove me guilty of sin? And his enemies were silent. Whoa! I can promise you my enemies can point out many times that I have sinned. Stuart?
Tacitus, Pliny the Younger, Josephus, many of these external sources, he was talking about internal sources with the Gospels, talk about not so much Jesus. Jesus was talked about in a way where he was a magician, Josephus talked about, how he was nasty. But then other sources contradicted him, saying that he just hated Christianity. That's why he was saying that about Jesus. So I would look more so at his followers to talk about the sinlessness, because they were known for a few different things. One, against infanticide. They were pulling babies off of garbage heaps. Two, egalitarianism. They treated everybody equally. Three, they were made up mainly of slaves who were coming into the church. Fourthly, they were non-retaliatory. They were known in a very weird kind of way to actually not get revenge on other people groups, which was huge during that day. So I'd look at Christians as the evidence for Christ.
Okay, now I like you a lot.
So,
You're being honest, so keep going.
yeah, so maybe this is just like the belief part, but I have a hard time believing that part. Like, I can believe in God because I know I can never see it. We can never see God. Well, we can never see him, like, visually.
Is that why you believe in God? Because you can't see him?
No. I couldn't
Good.
get too deep into it, but it would take a long time. But I'm saying, like, just reading the book and believing that there was a human that did that, I have a hard time believing that, like, a really hard time.
Okay, but I'm pleading with you. You got a good mind, sir. You articulate and think well. Now remember, you can't believe in God simply because you believe in God. You believe in God because there's evidence. A lot of it's common sense.
Well, my evidence is that there is an objective truth.
Good.
And that from that there is a good.
All right.
But I don't see Jesus in all that. I don't
Okay,
see
all
the
right.
equation of that.
Okay, but remember, we're starting off then with defining faith. You don't believe in God simply because you believe.
No.
You believe in God because there's evidence that God exists, right?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Now just do the same thing with Jesus. Read the Gospels,
Sure. Yes.
and yes, it's going to be different. The evidence that God exists is not historical. It's philosophical.
Right.
You see order and design, points to a designer. You see a moral absolute, an objective moral, points to a moral lawgiver. Okay, you've got your evidence. Now, when it comes to Jesus, it's not going to be philosophical. Why? Because he claimed to be God in human form. But I like that, because that means we can historically analyze Christ. Which is why Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 15, if Jesus Christ is not risen from the dead, we're idiots for believing in him. Because the veracity, the truthfulness of Christ is based on his claim, I'm going to die and rise from the dead. Ooh, that was a big mistake, Jesus. What's the mistake? You gave us a way to verify you or falsify you. If you don't rise from the dead, you, Jesus, are a liar. But if you did rise from the dead, you, Jesus, are the truth.